Okay, welcome back, everyone. So the board member who introduced me is me. So I've been privileged and honored to be your chapter president since last June. So a year in, year to go. Plenty on the job training. So looking forward to making things more efficient and effective to make sure that you're getting your member value over the coming year. I've had a 20 plus year and growing career in digital transformation profession. Started in the Marine Corps, taking manual standardized process and bringing automation to them. And I've kind of kept that theme towards my career. A lot of initials after my name, uh, just like our co-vice president of programs, Mr. Bill Ziegler. I'm a proud Marine Corps veteran. And shifting gears to
Semper Fi.
yes, sir. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is upskilling. Um, as we learned from the fireside chat with Dr. Hamilton, who took the federal government's deferred resignation, early retirement. So basically, she's getting paid through the end of the fiscal year since February and hasn't actually been putting in the 40-hour grind. Like that's a great time to upskill. While you're working, while you're raising a family, while you're uh, attending to other interests, when you may only have a few hours in the evening or on the weekends of free time. It isn't the best time for upskilling, but sometimes that's the only time we as professionals have or whatever life gives us. So we'll spend the next 45 minutes kind of talking about a few strategies and hopefully leave with a seed plant of what upskilling means to you personally. So if we look at uh, upskilling in the federal workforce now, just a quick level set. Uh, Definition essentially is learning new skills or improving the existing ones to improve your job performance and adaptability. So a good example of this is by a show of hands, how many would say they're competent in Microsoft Excel? Okay, the numbers are growing. So if we pivot that and say, okay, going back to the conversation with Carl Pritchard of he looked at the PMP as a bachelor's degree. So if we look at Excel as a bachelor's degree, just to be an office professional, but then we look at Microsoft Power BI and Power Apps and taking that data and making it in a visualization or showing metrics that matter, really telling that story with the data. How many people would raise their hand saying that they're um, have a moderate competency with Power BI or an equivalent data viz tool? So it's not as many. So I think that's a good example of upscaling. Like 10 years ago, being well skilled and well versed in Microsoft Excel with pivot tables and charts was great. You could wow, the C-suite, your clients, your teammates. But as we progress now there's that extra step now. And now it's, well, uh, we don't want just a file on a desktop or on a shared drive. We want enterprise, Power BI solutions. So all the data is transparent and everybody can see it, things like that. So when is there time to upscale from that knowledge you have today versus the knowledge that you need either for the present or for tomorrow? And then that aligns with career advancement to some extent, but you can learn all these skills, have initials out the wazoo behind your name, but that there's only so many spots for advancement, depending on where you were, where you work. Upward mobility may not come at a premium, and you may be waiting in line. A lot of us work in environments where door number one, which is you as a known entity who's been loyal and been doing good things for months, years, versus the shiny unknown of door number two, door number three, the outsider, the disruptor, the person who's going to bring new ideas. Like they know what you can do and they assume that they understand what your ceiling is, because if you haven't done it yet and you've worked there for a couple of years, why would you do it just because you got an advancement? So that's the intrigue and mystique that comes with door number three. And just overall of staying relevant. We learned thus far in 2025 that what we thought was uh, civil servant and uh, being a federal government worker, you still have to put your best in. You still have to be better tomorrow than you were today. But that job stability was there, and we've seen so far this year that it's not the job stability that we once thought it was. So ensuring you're staying relevant with your peers in the industry, be it private sector or public sector, is important. Okay, in terms of key drivers, so with new skills that need to align with advancements in technology. So if we look at AI since October 23, when OpenAI came out with the first Chat GPT prototype, and continue to have a great dialogue in chat, um, and kind of use that as the uh, sports part of the presentation. Visualization, which we spoke about, is in terms of the automation impact and using it either in your day-to-day management or I use a lot of Copilot and Nipper GPT for some sensitive artifacts to summarize meeting transcripts and things of that nature. Things that 2 years ago I would have had to listen to the recording, click pause every 20 or 25 seconds to transcribe. Now it's providing executive summaries. It's not perfect. I'm not just doing a upload and then copy and paste and assuming gospel, because one, transcripts still aren't that reliable as getting words, especially if you have multiple people in the conference room and depend on the audio visual of the room. So it's still good to check, but it's definitely saving time and making us look more proficient and organized in the same way. And then we've talked about the economic conditions and kind of that adaptability in the workforce and not assuming that the workforce you're in today is always going to be. Okay, so in terms of like upskilling and reskilling, we talked about upskilling, about improving what you know and adapt it to new things that are out there. Reskilling is, I asked Mr. Pritchard this morning, can an IT project manager pivot to a construction project manager at the middle point of their career? And he believed they can. PMI has recently came out with a construction professional version of the PMP, which just focuses on that. But if you look at, uh, granted, you're still focused on cost, schedule, performance, but as we've learned from all the traffic on 270 in the middle of the night and on the weekends, and 495 every day, and GW Parkway every hour. But like scheduling those type of construction activities are different from putting in an outage for a data center, something that we see as IT project managers. So that reskilling is really making that big pivot. A lot of our chapter members thus far in this decade have made a pivot to executive coaching or life coaching. They've been in the workforce for 20 or 30 years, learned everything that goes with that, good, bad, and ugly, and then can take that to the coaching and uh, mentor and ask people the right questions that lead the clients to their own path. So that's an example of reskilling while they're making that hard pivot. And as we continue through the theme of today, especially with as we come back from the lunch break with the developmental plan crafting, like really think where do you want to be in 5 years? When we asked Dr. Hamilton earlier this morning where she sees her purpose and her pivot in 2030, she spoke more about the technology in place and making things easier and keeping with it. So that's one pivot, but that would stay kind of within her world right now. So she doesn't see an extreme pivot, but some of you on the line and watching this on demand may see that. But whether it's upskilling or reskilling, it's still really important for to continue to grow. If you're the same person in December that you were today, you wasted 6 months in one perspective. So challenging yourself to continue to grow. And if you're still in the workforce and still are looking at the upper mobility, having a upskill and reskill mindset can go a long way. Okay, so in terms of how do you know what your skills are and what's good, not good enough? We all know what our potential is, and sometimes we get in ruts, sometimes we aren't as productive.
Matt, if you can hear me, you've lost audio.
It looks like he said that he's on his way back.
Okay, sorry about that. I guess it's better if we had a IT difficulty during my own presentation versus somebody else's. So, quick thumbs up that I'm back.
Yep, you're back.
Okay. Okay,
Hopefully
so
that was
review.
today.
So that's feedback that we get. Sometimes we think it's fair. Sometimes we don't think it's fair. But Chef Andres is a big believer that all feedback is good feedback. All his restaurants around the world, he uh, looks at the feedback that they get via social media for those who still use Yelp reviews, and has a team that looks through everything. So keep that in mind with performance reviews. Peer manager feedback, which you can get at any time. You just have to be open to it. For those who have through
Matt, I think your computer's the problem.
Or at least its internet connection.
Yeah, one of the two.
All righty. Okay, folks, let's give him a couple of minutes. Matt, when you do come back, if you can hear us, maybe turn your camera off. That might free up some of your bandwidth.
Yep. Good suggestion. In the meantime, call Comcast. They have 1.3 gigabit per second data to your area.
Good
And
point with the kids no longer being on virtual education or at midday internet, like latency is indeed better.
yeah,
and
All
then
right, here he is.
one thing that I like to do, I probably should do. I should probably do more of is look at job openings. As job openings come in, whether internally or the jobs that they post on LinkedIn, the chapter is trying to get better about our chapter job board and populated, but that's a good reference point of what prerequisites and qualifications employers are looking for. So that's the hiring managers, the job seekers are know what they want. So if you look at do you meet those prerequisites? Do you have those qualifications? Talking earlier about the PMP with Carl, if the PMP is indeed looked at as a bachelor's degree, that some places may be looking for a PGMP, a combination of PMP with agile certifications like product owner, scrum master, things of that nature. And then some job openings I'll look at and read the position descriptions, and I'm not even that familiar with what the qualification is. And like I'd like to think I'm moderately in the know. So there's some things that you may not even know are out there or what this combination of letters means. So it's good to look at it from that point of view too. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's a gap of yours, but it is a gap in terms of what the workforce openings are versus what you bring to the table, at least on paper. But on paper is going to get you a seat at the interview table to make the case for what you bring as a total package. So on paper is probably just as important. Okay. In terms of so how do you get there? So the SMART construct is probably the easiest baby step to right now. If I don't think I have any time today to reskill, how am I going to uh, make that time? So in using a smart table or a smart format, I think that can help everyone at least get a little bit of clarity and see like what's your art of the possible is, what's the available time, and then make the goals small enough so they are achievable. Don't say, oh, I want to get PGMP program management certification in 30 days, because that's probably not that achievable because it has its own body of knowledge and test cases, and you don't want to go test out too early for certification and fail because one, you have to take it again. Two, just that effect that it has in terms of your confidence with proctored exam environments. So we all probably at least have that. It's not the ones that they offer in the comforter. They have to have a full camera view to make sure you're not violating any integrity. It can be a little bit unnerving, and it's easy to forget things that you thought you knew. So I'll share my personal kind of smart work. The Air Force has a contract with Better Up Coaching. So this is an artifact I put together just to make sure I'm getting the most out of my coaching session. But in looking at everything that's on my plate, of course, the most important thing for the 76 of you in the room was the second row of making sure today's education day was a success. And that's going to be measurable by the survey satisfaction. And if you guys communicate that you guys got value out of this, but between sport coaching and the PMI chapter and parenting and work, I put return to the five bullet points. So I know that the mass media looked at the 5 bullet points and of sponsoring as a bad thing, but I looked at it more of, okay, by Friday, are my 5 bullet points up to the satisfaction that I have for myself? Like, did I make an impact enough out of the 40 hours that I had this week? So for those who don't know, it was suspended about 2 months ago. The OPM came out and said, well, just make one final recommendation of how you, if you could do one thing to make things better, what would you recommend? And, but for me personally, getting back into that 5 bullet point, it's Friday. Did I make as big of an impact as I wanted to? If not, I still have 8 hours to go, and let's try to get there. So it doesn't go anywhere. Nobody sees it, but those kind of personal standards that and checks and balances you can hold yourselves to would be good. Surprisingly enough, at the age of 45, I found a fair lady that wants to marry me. So I've also been challenged by my coach that if you're the president of project management chapter and a good project manager, why aren't you managing your wedding like a project? Which was an aha moment. And it comes back down to priority management and timing management. But that was good. But my point on all this, going back to development of at least getting a weekly trend of knocking out, 2 courses a week or things of that nature, was more down on the list because there's only so much time. So if you look at your own, and these slides will be available, and I can hollow out this smart template as well. But if you look at everything you have going on, how much time do you and then what does upskilling get you? I know many of us, myself at different times in my career, feel like we put a bunch in terms of upskilling, and that didn't necessarily lead to any advancement, bonuses, even on your appraisal. So if you look at upskilling more to support your own career goals, it may not necessarily be upper mobility, but it can just be becoming more proficient, more of a value add within your workforce. It can also be good for engagement, putting yourself out there. Since the pandemic, I think professional associations like ours, number have taken a little bit of a hit because people look at networking differently. I think going back to 2019, more people wanted to be in a room. And then when we weren't in the same room for a couple of years, that may have changed people's mindset. Some people are still excited to be back in that room, but some people say, okay, the virtual technology caught up. I can participate in something like this and not be totally siloed in a hotel ballroom or a conference room or an educational hall like we would. Okay, for any football fans, as the football season is right around the corner, Coach Smart from University of Georgia won a national championship. One quote he had on a podcast recently was, "You don't reach your goals being comfortable." So it's not always going to be easy. Your employer isn't going to give you 20 hours a week for upskilling or reskilling. You're going to have to find that time, determine what time of your own that isn't being sacrificed right now for upskilling can be sacrificed. And maybe right now, but it could be 5 or 10.
Hi, Matt.
For the purpose of bandwidth, I'll turn off the camera, but hopefully that helps. Okay. In terms of upskilling strategies and research, so digital age, leveraging online courses and certifications. There's probably never been more readily available to in our lifetimes or anyone else's lifetimes. If you look at, for those who grew up, in the 70s and 80s, we still had the encyclopedias in your dining room or your living room. Now everything so available and summarize and ask things. 10 years ago, it was, Google it. Now it's Chat GPT or Copilot to get more in-depth information. The subject and skill variability, some of the tools that we're going to go over in the coming slides. So, you really want to go where you're passionate about. I think passion equals effort. And if you're not passionate about something, you're going to go through the motions more, and it's not going to be that effort in place. Whether or not there's benefits with having certifications or not, it's not a bad thing. Or some certifications a cash grab. For the certified Scrum Master from Scrum Alliance in the past 10, 15 years and have to pay the renewal every 2 years. Have you really gotten a lot from that? Or is that more, well, you don't want to lose it, so you continue to pay? And on the certification, and every certification value is really in the eye of the beholder and your workplace to some extent, or those who are entrepreneurs. For Dr. Hamilton in the coaching world or Kate in the consulting world, having certain certifications is more advantageous for mid-level management, mid-level action officers. Some have, 20 or 30 certifications, but is it really doing anything for them? So you kind of have to look at what's important to you. And then so much of learning
Matt, you need a
opportunities
better,
are free right now. So in terms of software as a service and SaaS technology, Salesforce Trailhead has totally free learning management system. For some of the certifications, you have to pay, but they're reasonably priced. But you could hand on keyboard knowledge, just taking the class guides and but may not give you the acumen in terms of having the understanding to have one of those certifications. And in the case of Salesforce, you have to have the certified administrator before you can get the other ones. So, but there's a will, there's a way, and there's a lot of resources and people who want to help. Same with ServiceNow and their ServiceNow Academy. Microsoft and the 365 training and all the free training for Power Apps and Power BI, going back to kind of maturing your BI, all that training's free. PMI is continuing to put out free courses. IBM Skill Build has project management courses and some more digital career readiness. And then there's the learning management systems that have been around for 10, 15 years, and edX and Coursera. Allison is a new one of classes you can take for free. You can put them on your LinkedIn or not, but those are available opportunities. Okay, in terms of looking at things from a priority perspective, so some of the learning solutions come at a cost. Udemy is $20 a month, a little less than 200 a year. Pluralsight, 30, 300, but there's more courses and more certification preparations for those who are more graphically and artist minded. Adobe Creative Cloud is a little bit more expensive, but you get all the Adobe tools. And then the master class, which is kind of a combination of developmental and creative, is about $240 a year. And a lot of us will be like, oh, that's too much, I'll just do the free stuff. But if you want to put your developmental mind first and you look at your creative mind, we're paying $200 for Netflix, $150 for Amazon Prime, $300 if you're a sports person, have the Disney bundle, $200 for HBO Max. So those type of subscriptions for creative mind will rationalize as more cost worthy, but at the same time will take shortcuts of like, oh, like Udemy is too expensive. So just everybody's different. Everybody has different priorities, but just put in the dollars on the table there. Could be an eye opener for some. And there's some good conversation in the chat, so let's keep that going. Okay, and then mentorship. I think companies post-pandemic, at least what I've seen, both private and public sector, have not put as much into mentorship. Even PMI chapters, we've had a mentorship program in the past. It's something that I'd like to get off the ground next year. So hopefully we can all be successful with that. But if you look at it as a mentor, as somebody to kind of guide you, maybe an accountability buddy, a nudger, there's some things there. And maybe your leadership skills and what you bring to the table is better to be a mentor than to be a mentee. But coaches have coaches, CEOs have coaches or mentors. So it's good to kind of play both sides of the game there. And then in terms of building your networks, like within educational opportunities, with a lot of the online content, it's a little bit hard. I know some of our attendees, including our vice president of communications, is taking leadership techniques up on their training sessions in person, which have more of a social feel to them. And that's good to build networks as well. So if you can fit that in your schedule, maybe challenge yourself to do, 3 or 4 virtual things and 1 in person to better build that network if you can. And I know a lot of you look to the chapter for that networking. We greatly appreciate the 9 months of the year when we have the restaurant at different degrees of full. So we're committed to continue being that resource for you as well. Okay, in terms of just mentorship and teacher, Benicio del Toro was on a podcast recently promoting his Wes Anderson movie and said that's part of being taught by a great teacher. You keep learning as you get older, you're ready to understand things. So just because, and most of us have still remember high school or college professor, or maybe even a parent who taught us something, and at the time it may have gone out in one ear and out the other, but all these years later, it's a point of pride or a foundational perspective for you. So we have the power to do that as mentors and even as mentees, because mentees can teach mentors. Okay, biggest thing with upskilling, reskilling is time. There's only 24 hours in a day. There's only 365 days. So when's the time going to do this? And if you have a high pressure job environment that is taking more than 40 hours a week and you have to be in the game, like, do you want to let your current job performance scale? In terms of the prioritization that comes with that, and then just the consistent effort. How many of us have started a book and not finished it? How many of us started 10 books and are reading all of them at the same time and not making a whole lot of progress? So if you start something, it's, in one perspective, we owe it to ourselves to finish it. But there's only so much time in the day. My own supervisor has a creed of I don't believe in easy. So when I'll come out and be like, yeah, that would be easy. That won't take too long. Like she'll remind me that easy doesn't exist. So just because something does look easy, it may look too easy. So that's a good thing to keep in mind as well. In terms of how to stay motivated and maintain that momentum of starting something and finishing, in terms of those who may not have a PMP yet, get the PMP before the 8th edition comes out and the test changes. Or for those that will talk more about the new AI partnership certification that PMI has now, which is one of few, I guess, golden record AI certifications in terms of vendors. But if you pay the $700, you get the class, you get the study. Like making those goals, you could use a smart construct or something else, but make it so it's achievement in 20 course. HR IT world really committed into Salesforce, kind of gamified the Salesforce trailhead of like, hey, let's see how many learning badges everybody can put up at every meeting. And even as a chief information officer, how little time they have for upskilling and reskilling. Was beating everybody by like 50, 60 badges, not kind of morale, but it all put a aha moment on that if he has time to upskill, maybe I should find time. And everybody has different situations, but put in that kind of fun gamification on training. If you're everybody's a leader of your workforce and can kind of create that, that could go a long way. Okay, in terms of great, I completed training. So it's if you create a culture and status means of like calling people out, giving kudos, it's probably not going to come with monetary, but even for the hard work that they put in, can be good for the individual as well as maybe the I didn't know that existed, or well, if he did that and I want to stay competitive with he or she, maybe I should get that. So that type of uh, culture change within the workforce. And then in terms of AI with skill, uh, there's get as it continues to learn these learning.
I think I need to give Matt a new computer.
Scan AI can even be a part of like the quality control with AI solutions and custom learning models. That's a good skill to have. There's lots of virtual reality opportunities in terms of how those are looked at right now as a nice to have and not a need as they look to uh, some contracts and things of that nature. But immersive and virtual reality are only become more efficient and proficient and mimic real life. So I think that still has a good future. And then a lot of these learning platforms, learning stuff, a few may give you a recommendation. But I think is it really takes what you've done and creates full career maps and learning platforms and how many hours you're putting in and can really take all that data and do something good with it. So I think that's for upskilling and reskilling is bright. In terms of if you're a boss, if you're an owner, what's your role in this? I think the more you invest in a culture of training and development, the better. Depending on velocity and needs, you may not be able to give hours a week, hours a month to training. If you are able to, or at least keep that in your head, because I think that can go a long way and definitely have a strong uh, employee retention. We've all kind of seen that where things are, and there's not that in both directions. A lot of people are loyal in their federal government job. Going back to the Marriott layoffs in Bethesda and Rockville, you had Marriott employees who put in 20, 25 years, but still ended up getting laid off. But the more culture you have of trying to upskill your employees, put them in a better place where it's good for proposals. If you're in the private sector, it's good for overall knowledge, but it's also good for them. So you're investing in them, and that goes back. And then just in terms of staying competitive, going back to proposals, your top 5 key personnel on a proposal uh, may not even be in the same ballpark as in other companies because they're more focused on upskilling and reskilling and finding the right fit for the right job. Sticking with the sports theme, the president of the Boston Celtics, Rich Gotham, recently said that it takes a certain mindset to be able to preserve, stay positive, and keep putting the work in, even if you aren't being rewarded. Just because you get a PGMP certification, or if you take an AI and project management class, or the Amazon AI associate, doesn't mean there's going to be a big party for you in the office, or you're going to get a bonus or promotion. But you have to, in my opinion, you have to keep putting in the work, keep grinding, keep making yourself better, even if somebody isn't recognizing or rewarding or seeing it today. Somebody else or tomorrow. So, time in, I passed the test on the first. I've been break. But in terms of as the world needs to change with it, I think we've gotten kind of over that 20th century, 21st century barrier of we've always done things this way. Why should we change, or why should we embrace change? I think the majority of the workforce right now wants to embrace change. They may just not know how to do it, or how it's being recommended to them isn't easy. Like for those in projects in enterprise Jira solution, a ServiceNow portfolio program project management tool. It's not apples for apples. It can be apples for oranges or apples to pineapples, depending on the solution, how it's set up. So I think all of us have gone through a transition of like, oh, we're going to use this new system, and, and, and then in conclusion, just points. Don't be afraid of upskilling. That with whatever time you have, try to at least plant a seed or consider prioritizing it. And then in terms of setting goals to get there, leveraging resources that are available to you, find those resources if they're not available to you because they're available somewhere via professional associations like ours. Or if you do encounter some adverse things, if you put 6 months in, take a test, you're 5 percentage points off from passing. Don't quit. Don't be discouraged to the point where you don't put yourself back out there. Okay. Apologies for some of the comm issues. I will take Catherine's recommendation of just doing this off on my own, but I will use some of the feedback in chat to dress up some of the messaging. But the slides will be available immediately. So, any questions in chat with the that we got? Okay. We will end the room and then open it back up at 12:50. That's more for a co-host thing for me. Of a setting I changed. So, but we are capturing the chat records, so we have everything you have. So enjoy your half-hour lunch, and we'll see everybody back at 1 o'clock for the individual development plan. Thank you.